It's Halloween! Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And what a World Series 2019 was. Was it not like one of the most exciting series in recent memory? And boy, my prediction came true. I picked the Nats before the series started, and little did I know that the home team, we talk about home field advantage, and little did I know the home team would not win a single game. So you start the series in Houston, Washington wins them both. You go to D.C., Houston sweeps, and people start to think, well, this series is over. It just begun. And so, chat room, good morning, Douglas Boyle, Corona Cyclones, to the countless thousands listening on the podcast networks, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast Radio. Let's get some thinking going here. What do you think was the defining moment in the World Series? And to me, it's real easy. It's Game 6, Trey Turner batting, hits a weak ground ball down to third, fielded barehanded by Alex Bregman. Great strong throw to first, but it's up the line. And it hits him. And he's running the baseline. And he's out. Interference. Are you kidding me? But Davey Martinez, here's the players, that wasn't the thing that did it. Davey Martinez, the manager for the Washington Nationals, storms out of the dugout. It was almost like he was going to attack the umpire. He's ejected from the game. And from that point on, series over. Over. And even last night, and we'll talk about last night's game in great detail, but Game 6, after the ejection, and it looked like bleak circumstances for Washington, they hit a home run, Rendon, to put them ahead. They never relinquished the lead in that game. The thing about this national team, they were always behind the eight ball. I discussed this last week, real briefly. The wild card play-in game. One game play, you're in or you're out. When you win or you lose. They're in Milwaukee on the road. They're behind. Wild card National League game. Josh Hader comes in for the Brewers. And it looks bleak for the Nationals. But they rally against one of the truly best relievers in all of baseball. They win the wild card game. And to their credit, or let the winner enjoy the spoils, they now have to play the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League, Division Series. The Dodgers, they have the best record in the National League this year, and they fall behind the Dodgers. And in an elimination game, they rally, and they come back and win that series. I guess the blip on the screen for this line of thinking has to be the Cardinals series, where it was just a 4-game sweep. But now they got to play the big bad Astros on their home turf, where the Astros had the best record in all of baseball. And remember, back on, May 23rd, 50 games into the season this year, the Nationals had only won 19 games. They had lost 31. Isn't that something? From May 23rd, 19 wins, to October 30th, 19 champs. They played 5 elimination games, including Games 6 and 7 in this year's World Series. Obviously, they trailed in all of them, and obviously, to be World Series champs, they won in all of them. So kudos to the Nationals. I'm glad they won. It makes me feel good about baseball when you see a team win all the road games. It's the first World Series championship in Washington, D.C. since Well, maybe some of you remember this long before my time. 1924, when the Senators won the World Series, Howie Kendrick, 36 years of age, joined the Pirates' Hal Smith in 1960 as the only players to hit a go-ahead home run in the 7th inning or later while their team was trailing in a World Series winner-take-all game. Also, Howie Kendrick is the 4th oldest player in Major League Baseball history to go deep in a Game 7. First team ever to win the World Series with 4 road victories. First World Series ever, playoff series ever, where the home team never won. Let's look at what happened last night. Let's talk about Max Scherzer, first of all. What a gutty performance. Let's talk about Zach Greinke. What a great performance. You got to say, I was surprised. Doug Boyle's typing in, I can't wait. You got to say Greinke outshined Scherzer. And Greinke is cruising. 6 innings, 1 hit. Cruising. And then lightning strikes in that 7th inning. In that 7th inning, with Greinke only at around 70 pitches. You know, he looked really good, gave up a home run. Now it's 2-1. Gave up a base hit. You got a runner on first. He had thrown 80 pitches. Excuse me, not a homer, not a hit. It was a walk, rather, to Juan Soto. So Rendon homers, Soto walks. And now A.J. Hinch has a decision to make, and one that will probably haunt him on this Halloween day for a while. He doesn't walk to the mound. He runs to the mound. He pulls Zach Greinke. He'd only thrown 80 pitches. He puts in Will Harris. Are you freaking kidding me? And the first pitch, it's like Howie Kendrick hits that bomb into right field, into the netting attached to the foul pole. You could hear it clank as it hit metal. It's 3-2 Washington. And it was like you took a vacuum cleaner to a floor and you suck up all the dirt. It was like a vacuum cleaner in Minute Maid Park, and it sucked up all the energy. The crowd had been raucous, standing up, waving those stupid little orange hankies. And all of a sudden, boom, quiet. It was like we were at the library. And Houston couldn't recover. Not only did Houston now trail, it would get worse. And did you see the little dance, the little driving your car maneuver that Howie Kendrick and the bench did after the home run? I mean, how cool is that? Oh, yeah, I know, Doug, that the Caps won. I'm talking about baseball championships. The first baseball championship in Washington since 1924. Looking in the chat room, responding to that. So, do you take out Greinke or do you leave him in? Zach Greinke was quoted by saying, quote, I was pitching good. They got a good lineup, especially the top of the order. It's tough to get through no matter 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. All of them are tough, really good hitters up there. And then on the decision to remove Greinke in the 7th, Hinch said, it's one he'll have to live with. He said, quote, I'll think about it, and I don't know what would have happened had I left him in. None of us do. That's no rocket science. But that was kind of where I was targeted based on where the game was going and what we had available to us. Hinch further said that Garrett Cole, Mr. Cy Young National League 2019, Garrett Cole, who dominated the Nationals to win Game 5 in Washington, he was warming up in the 5th inning. He was prepared to bring into the game. Instead, Cole sat with his sweatshirt over his head and watched. You know, I don't know. I just don't get it. Here, let's compare the two teams. Scherzer and Greinke pitched okay, pitched both pretty good. They both come out of the game, and as soon as Scherzer comes out after the 5th, Patrick Corbin goes into the game. Who was credited with the win last night? Patrick Corbin being the 3rd starter. The best available starter Washington had. You can't throw Strasburg last night. He pitched the night before and wore his arm out. Scherzer was in the game. You took him out. So exit Scherzer, enter Corbin. Corbin pitches 3 innings, shuts him down. So why didn't he bring Garrett Cole in the game? You had him warming up. There's nothing in reports this morning that said he couldn't throw. And Hinch said, this is absolutely asinine. Hinch, quote, I wasn't going to pitch him unless we were going to win the World Series and have a lead. He was going to help us win. He was available. And I felt it was a game that he was going to come in had we tied or taken the lead. Okay. What am I missing? I look at the box score. Let's do that, shall we? The box score says, at the end of 6 innings, Houston 2, Washington 0. Is that not a lead? Is that not a great time, A.J. Hinch? As you said, you want him to come in if you can win the World Series. You could have won the World Series. You're not playing marbles. This isn't tic-tac-toe. You're playing Game 7 of the World Series. You've got arguably the best pitcher in all of Major League Baseball available to pitch, and you never bring him in. You bring in Will Harris. If I'm scoring managers this morning, then I got to give Davey Martinez an A+. And I have to give A.J. Hinch an F. An F. From the 6th inning on, the poorest managed Game 7 probably ever. Ever. And he says, I don't know what happened if I left in. It's not a matter of leaving Greinke in. I don't think that's such a bad call. I think it's a matter of who you had take his place. And when you've got Garrett Cole available, and he's ready, even by the manager's own admission, then why don't you bring him in? You know, if it's because he needs rest, well, I tell you what, we're going to let all Major League Baseball players who played last night, they can rest until February when spring training kicks in. You don't have to do anything strenuous. You don't have to pitch 90 pitches. You don't throw 100 pitches. You get off. And so that's absolutely not going to hold water with me. There's no justification for not bringing him in. None. Let's get off of that kick. Let's talk about positive. Steven Strasburg. The former number 1 pick in the Major League Baseball amateur draft back in 2009. Pitched Game 6. He now can say, I am the most valuable player of the 2019 World Series. He's the first pitcher to win the most valuable player honor since the San Francisco Giant left-hander Madison Bumgarner in 2014, and the 29th overall. Strasburg won 2 games, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. And then in the second game, 8 1/3, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, 5 hits, 2 walks, both on the road. He has an opt-out decision looming. 4 years, $100 million on the table. And I disagree, Malpal. I'm not too brutal on Hinch. If you think I'm brutal, I want you to listen to shows that are going to come up later today on this network, other networks, television broadcasts. He's going to be second guessed a lot tougher than what I'm doing to him. Strasburg's 6-game effort, the Nats were on the ropes. Trailing 3-2, he went 8 1/3. You know, those first two, the first inning of Game 6, I think, was critical because the Astros were getting to him. Home run by, not a home run, double by Springer, went to third on the wild pitch, scores, they score another run, it's 2-0. Frankly, he didn't look good at all. Goes to the dugout, comes back, pitches a whale of a game. Starting pitching in the series was good. Verlander, he's still got albatross on his back. No wins in World Series, but I think Verlander pitched well. Didn't win, but he didn't pitch poorly. Greinke pitched great last night. Out of sight for Zach Greinke. Did anybody see that coming? When you look at the box score after 6, 1 hit. Strasburg, obviously MVP. Corbin pitched well. Pitching was good. And you expect that in a fall classic. Strasburg had a 1.46 ERA. Has a 1.46 ERA in all postseason games. Third lowest. He trails, of those with 40 innings, only Mariano Rivera, who has a 0.70 ERA, and the great legendary Sandy Koufax. 0.95. So he's the first number 1 pick in a draft to win a World Series Most Valuable Player. Kudos to Steven Strasburg. He's been maligned. I guess one of the big criticisms of Strasburg over the years has been he can't stay healthy. Well, he stayed healthy this year. He had one of the greatest World Series playoff runs, had a super regular season. So I think the World Series 2019, it'll be remembered for comebacks. How Washington survived and survived again. You talk about a cat having 9 lives. That was the Nationals. We'll also remember the picture, the camera shooting over on Garrett Cole on the bench in Game 7 after warming up, putting his jacket on, and never being heard from again. That's the way it's going to be. That's the way sports are. We talk about what happened. We talk about what doesn't happen. Good point, Malpal. Everyone has an opinion. Totally agree. That's the great thing about living in the US of A. We can all have an opinion. The good news for me is, well, maybe not good news. My team was home just like me watching the game on television. So I'm looking at this game from a non-rooting factor aspect, unbiased aspect. And I'm questioning this and that. Great series. And so now it's time to move on to the offseason and the free agency. And I just talked about Strasburg. Will he opt out? Now, $25 million a year for 4 more years for a 31-year-old. I don't think I opt out of that contract. What do you think, chat room? What do you think, those listening on the podcast? What do you think about those listening on iHeartRadio? Just think about that. Do you, if you've got $25 million for the next 4 years, opt out of that contract? Now, what? I got to think might happen is the Nationals may renegotiate with him. He may pull a few more $1 million out of the hat to extend his contract with Washington. That makes sense. To me, though, just to say, I'm going to leave it on the table, I don't think it makes sense. Now, Mal Powell in the chat room thinks 100% he opts out, and he may do that. He may well do that. The thing is with pitchers, you look at these pitchers historically, once they get to a certain age, 30, 31, first of all, what's been going on recently, teams are reluctant to sign long-term contracts or offer them. Now, if Strasburg thought he could get $30 million for the next 4 years, sure. And he may think that, and he may do it. But to me, $25 million, maybe I live on a different planet, a different Milky, maybe he's in the Milky Way and I'm not. I don't know. But to leave $25 million on the table, I don't know. So I see it as a negotiator. I see the Nationals up in the ante, re-signing him. I guess that might be an opt-out, but I don't think it goes to the point where he leaves Washington. I think he stays in Washington. He either stays under the current deal or a new deal is struck really soon, keeping him. Strasburg has 72 hours following the end of the World Series to make his decision. Now, he can negotiate that contract within this 3-day period, and I think that's what he's going to do. So we're going to know, let's see, today is Thursday. We're going to know by nighttime Saturday, whether he's renegotiated, opted out, or stayed under his current deal. Interesting to see what's going to happen there. Rendon. Anthony Rendon is as clutch as they come. And now he heads into free agency. What does Washington do with Anthony Rendon? And good morning to Cloronas Cyclonas, DK Lush, Doug Boyle, and my friend Mal Powell. It's good to see all of you this morning. And to all of you listening, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast. It's good to see you and good to be with you this morning on Arnie's Fantasy World Sports. So what did they do with Rendon? Great postseason. He hit the home run to slice the Astros 2-0 lead in the 7th inning last night. He belted a Game 6 homer to extend Washington's lead from 3-2 to 5-2 in the 7th inning of Game 6. Overall, he hit .276, 8 for 29. In the World Series, he had 3 doubles, 2 home runs, and he was incredible defensively. Overall in the postseason, Rendon, .328 average, 7 doubles, 3 homers, 11 walks. Huge home run off Dodgers lefty Clayton Kershaw in Game 5 of the NLDS before Juan Soto followed immediately with a game-tying shot. And Howie Kendrick's 9th inning grand slam put Washington ahead for good. Rendon's strong postseason showing. And remember, his regular season was awesome too. He hit .319 with 44 doubles, 126 runs batted in, and a career-high 34 home runs. Where does Rendon land? Does Washington re-sign Rendon? Now, this is not an opt-out. He's a straight-out free agent. He's going somewhere. He's signing a new contract with someone. Who's in the business of needing a third baseman? Who's got the money to pay him? A perfect fit, of course, I don't know, maybe not a perfect fit, but a fit for sure, Philadelphia. Subtraction, addition by subtraction, and addition by addition. If the Phillies were to sign Rendon, you take away Rendon from a division rival, and you fill a gap at third base where Philadelphia has been lacking for the longest time with consistent play, consistent hitting, consistent leadership from a third baseman. I think the Phillies may make a run for him. In fact, I'd be surprised if they don't. And there may be other teams as well who have that same need. But the Philadelphia situation with the new manager coming in, Girardi, There's a new energy there, a new attitude there. So now what do we do with Garrett Cole, who said right after the World Series, quoting, "I'm not an employee of the team," end of quote. Wow. Kind of strong words, huh? I'm not an employee of the team. He was going to represent himself as he spoke to the media, I guess. Cole is coming off the season, 250 ERA, 326 strikeouts, age 29, 3 All-Star selections, 2 top 5 finishes in Cy Young. Talk about a bidding war. And the list is as long as your leg. Houston's got to want to re-sign him, right? Yeah, other American League rivals would love to have him. We've talked about before. I'm sure there's some National League teams. Can you imagine going back to the National League where there's no DH? This is going to be, to me, the most interesting call of all. What happens with Garrett Cole in the offseason? It really is. And can teams unload salary? What will the Pirates do with Sterling Marte? Will the Phillies spend big on Garrett Cole? Yeah, just a lot of things out there floating around that, to me, the Hot Stove League is so interesting this year because there are not that many players that are great, but there are a few, and I think interest is going to be super duper high on landing these stellar free agents. And should Strasburg opt out and become a free agent, now you've got the Strasburg-Cole situation. Let's see. We'll watch it. We'll see how it goes. I got to get out of here. Guys, it's good to be with you today. Thanks for listening. Those that are listening to podcasts after hours, so to speak, thank you for being with us. Back on Monday. Looking forward to that. We'll talk free agency. We'll talk a little fantasy football. Have a great weekend, everybody, from Arnie and Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.